weeks. He asked me to take over for his class. So we're going to be in John chapter 8, and he'll be back. Well, let me rephrase that. So we'll be going into the summer series starting first week of June, and then he will be picking up the remainder part of John in the fall. My typical personality is to try to get through as much material as I possibly can, so that when he comes back, I said, look how far we got. But I'm going to resist that over the next 2 weeks. We're going to be breaking up this into 2 classes. As you may recall, we did read through John chapter 8, verse 31, but I would like to go back just a little bit to set the context for what we're covering over the next 2 weeks. So, can anybody tell us what the scene is? What is going on during this time? What is this festival?
I don't know, is it still the Festival of Booths?
Say it again?
Still the Festival of Booths?
Yes.
Yes.
So he's at the Feast of the Tabernacles. And what does the Feast of the Tabernacles represent?
Remembering when they were living in tents.
Yes.
And the 40 years of wandering in.
When they're wandering in the wilderness, right? So this is a very important part of Israel's history. And so do you think that this was a kind of a passive thing, or do you think there's quite a bit of people here?
Was required by all adult males to attend.
Yes.
Even if you lived in Cyprus, you're supposed to be there.
You're supposed to be there. So this is a very crowded, important feast that they're attending. And in in chapter 8, verse 1, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. So tell me, who knows about the Mount of Olives? Who can tell me about that? Where is it? What does it symbolize? How did Jesus use it? By the way, you guys are going to be teaching me today, and I'm going to have a series of questions. And I used to be more of a lecturer style, but I've changed that. And so none of the questions that I'm asking are going to be trick questions or vague questions. They should be based off of our historical knowledge of the Bible, and especially in the context. Where is the Mount of Olives? I'm sorry? Jerusalem. It's just outside Jerusalem, actually, and it sits above, and you look down at the tabernacle, and so you've got this of the temple courts, and you've got this great view, and it is sitting above. So Jesus spends the evening in the Mount of Olives. Did he wake up early? Verse 2, at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him. Did he sleep in? No. Did the people around him sleep in? Oh, they did. Okay, Warren provided a response that I was not anticipating. Can you help elaborate?
Well, definitely defining early versus sleeping in versus getting up early.
I guess, so okay.
Early riser, I think by nature, and of course he was not just a regular human, so the others sleeping in were tired. There was a lot of traveling.
There was a lot. That's a great point, because people came from all over for this feast.
Contributed to them wanting to sleep in, get a little extra energy for the days to come, prepare for the actual feast proceedings. If you weren't from Jerusalem, you had to purchase things, you had to arrange things, you brought your family, that all those dynamics. So sleeping in a little bit maybe was kind of a little luxury they decided to take in.
So Warren is bringing up something that's really important. We have travelers coming from all walks of the earth, or not all walks, but surrounding cities. But we have different populations. And what we're going to do over the next 2 weeks is we're going to Really, my goal is that you guys will be able to visualize the scenario. You'll be able to see what's going on, who's in attendance, and what is actually transpiring. Almost like we're sitting in a movie and we're watching this unfold. And what Warren is talking about is there's different types of people from geography and so forth. But the point I was trying to make was, at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. They were up early. They were ready to celebrate. This was an important festival. And then last week, I think it was last week or was it 2 weeks? Well, I guess last week we had the minister, but the guest speaker. But then the week before that, when Ryan was teaching, we talked about the Pharisees in the beginning of chapter 8. And what did they do? They brought a woman. Anybody can give me a 1 to 2 sentence summary of what happened in that story? The woman caught in adultery.
So they brought in a woman caught in adultery, and so the Pharisees wanted to question Jesus, try to catch him, see what he would say about adultery.
They were trying to trip him up, weren't they? What is this starting to, when that setting, they were trying to trap him. And I visualize a courtroom. So a few years ago, I testified in federal court. One of the, I don't know if you're familiar with the PPP loans. I know Harry is. But it was a stimulus loan program from the federal government in the form of payroll. I know Brian is. He's a CFO as well. The form of payroll, which is typically unemployment insurance is covered at the state level, but this was at the federal level. One of my borrowers, who happened to be a few years younger than me, called me, told me about his business. He was in the hotel business, and he was in this airplane business and all kinds of different businesses, and I processed all these PPP loans for him. Didn't really think much about it. I talked to him on the phone, I emailed him, and so forth. And then I got summoned to federal court to testify against him. The money that we had provided him, routed through the federal government, was all fraudulent. This guy was standing trial. And since I had talked to him and I had emailed him, he was trying to say that I purposely and selfishly wanted to make some compensation from it as to why I processed these PPP loans for him. So I go to federal court, and I spent several weeks preparing for it because I had to look at all the evidence that the bank had provided the government. There was this woman, a FBI agent. She was probably early 30s. She had been no more than taller than 5'2". She was the most intimidating person I have ever dealt with. And she followed me around at the courtroom. She escorted me. I was up on that witness stand for 2 hours. And the opposing counsel wanted to discredit me and the bank. They wanted to say that you guys were behaving. And I thought to myself, and they prepared me, the prosecutors and the FBI agent, they prepared me that you need to be ready for these questions. I was not ready for those questions. She was trying to discredit me. She was trying to get under my skin so that the jury that was sitting to my right was not going to listen to my testimony, and it was going to discredit it for the case purpose. Long story short is that gentleman got a fair trial. He was convicted on all counts. He's going to do 15 to 20 years in prison. It was a serious federal offense. But it reminded me of what's happening here and what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. It starts to feel like a courtroom. And we have somebody up on the stand, as I was, getting pressured and getting questioned. So when I was in grad school, I studied Latin American history, and my main focus was on Mexican history. And we read this book called Judas and the Jockey Club. And it was about Mexico prior to the Mexican Revolution. I think Harry knows a little bit of Mexican history as well. And the scene was horse races or a sports environment. But in the crowd, think of like a Padre game. You've got all kinds of walk in life. You've got 35,000 fans. They're there for one purpose, which is to watch the Padres. But you have poor people, you have rich people, you have different nationalities, you have people speak different languages. And the point of the book was, although they had come together in a public setting, there was underlying conflict between the different groups of people. And that's what we're going to unpack over the next 2 weeks. And we're going to look at who these people were and how they were responding to Jesus. Fast forward, in 1912 was the Mexican Revolution. That revolution was not started by Mexican authorities at the present level. It was started by poor farmers who had been mistreated, and they gathered together and they started a revolution, and that led to the Mexican Revolution, which was a pivotal part of Mexico's history, and there are land laws in place that protect a lot of those poor peasants. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, why are we going into Mexico's history, Well, it's the author of that book was doing the same thing. He was painting a picture of what was going on around. And although there was this very public, widely accepted event that they were attending, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we're going to expose. And we're going to see what happened and why Jesus was actually being persecuted from those participants. All right, enough background. Let's get into it. So we're going to break this up into 5 sections. I don't know how far we're going to get today, but the good news is we have 2 weeks. So I will ask for some readers. We're going to start with John chapter 8, verses 12 through 20. Who would like to read that for us? Harry, thank you.
Then Jesus spoke to them again. I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, you are testifying about yourself. Your testimony is not valid. Even if I testify about myself, Jesus replied, my testimony is valid, because I know where I come from, and I know where I'm going. But you don't know where I come from or where I'm going. You judge by human standards. I judge no one. And if I do judge, my judgment is true, because I am not alone, but I and the Father who sent me judge together. Even in your law it is written that the witness of 2 men is valid. I am the one who testifies about myself, and the Father who sent me testifies about me. Then they asked him, where is your Father? You know neither me nor my Father, Jesus answered. If you knew me, you would also know my Father. He spoke these words by the treasury while teaching in the temple complex, but no one seized him because his hour had not come.
Thank you, Harry. All right, let me reread verse 12. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So what is Jesus saying here in these 8 verses? What is he saying to the crowd? By the way, before we do that, let's define who this crowd is composed of. And I'll start and you guys can help me. So Pharisees, who else is in there? If what Warren brought up, we've got a diverse group of people, right? So Pharisees, religious leaders, common individuals. Anybody else? Give you a flavor for who's in attendance. Okay, so what is Jesus, or what is Jesus saying to the crowd? Hint, I just reread it in verse 12.
Saying who he is and how you can benefit from who he is and follow him.
So thank you, Daniel. Let's unpack that a little bit more. Who is he? He is the light of the world. By the way, during this feast, they illuminated the lights even more so. What did that illumination of the lights represent? This goes back to your answer at the beginning of the class in terms of what they were celebrating.
Okay, well, God led them with a pillar of fire and a cloud by day, and light symbolizes God.
And light symbolizes God. So how does that relate to what Jesus is saying here then?
He's saying then that he is the Son of God.
That he is the Son of God. Perfect. Thank you, Julie. That's a great segue to what was the crowd's response?
The crowd or the Pharisees?
I'm sorry, say one more time.
The crowd or the Pharisees?
Well, you know what? That is a great question. What's interesting about John's take on this gospel is his description of the crowd is extremely fluid. And we're going to unpack that a little bit more. But there's something that you're trying to develop here. So what do you have?
The basics. Just that clearly the Pharisees are not happy as they haven't been. They've continued to press.
And does anybody want to expand on what Daniel's comments on what specifically they're pushing? Did I see somebody's hand up in the back? The witnesses, right? There must be two. So now we're in a courtroom. And what they say, here you are appearing as your own witness, your testimony is not valid. Notice how Jesus responds. Does he change subject? No. He stays right where they're at. And his response is, even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid. They're responding like courtroom examiners.
I can't really raise a hand.
No worries.
Even if, there were probably people there that would testify that Jesus was the Son of God, that his followers and, the disciples, that they had seen the things that Jesus had done, and yet they would not have believed with two or more witnesses. They were not going to buy this with anything. And again, they keep throwing the law at it when they don't even follow the law.
They are just missing it, aren't they? And this whole thing is going to be a big miss, and it's going to be a huge escalation at the very end of this chapter that we're going to get into. They are just simply missing it. Anything else to share in terms of the crowd's response?
They didn't seize him.
I'm sorry?
They didn't seize him.
They didn't seize him.
They did not, and it says because his hour had not come. They did not know that. Their lack of seizure had nothing to do with his hour. His hour was determined by the Lord. And they did not seize him because he's got them backed up against a wall. Is he really what he says? Because they've seen him forgive sin, send a woman away. They've seen the power that's going on. And I don't think they know what to do at this point in time. Because when someone says, I am God, and that's what he is saying, that's very intimidating to them based on what they have seen. So they don't know how to react. Because if they were absolutely convinced that he was this false teacher, a bad person, like many others who claimed to be Christ, through their time, there had been a lot of men claiming this. They don't seize him. They let him go. And he hasn't intimidated them. He is showing his strength right here. Because the hour, what is that to them? The writer knows, but they don't know.
So Jolene has provided a really nice summary. You jumped all the way to the very end. I am. So I think we're done. We can talk about something else. But Jolene is talking about their response in general. They were not going to listen. And by the way, were they in control? No. God was in control. God knew it wasn't their hour. His hour, excuse me. Anything else in terms of the crowd's response on this section? What do you observe here? Oh, I'm sorry.
In the synagogue, every Saturday, they read the law and the prophets. So if they were reading the prophets, they were aware of the fact that in Isaiah it says, I will bring a light to all of the nations. It talks about light a lot in Isaiah. And he was revered, but apparently saying I'm the light of the world didn't trigger that in
What you're talking about is they knew the history. The crowd, especially the Pharisees and the Jewish leaders, they knew the history. There's references to Isaiah, there's references to Daniel, Abraham, and Exodus, and we're going to explore all those over the next 2 weeks. But they chose either they weren't able to make the connection, or they ignored it in general, right? Anybody else have anything to add on this first section in terms of the crowd's response? So Isaiah, Psalms has this idea of the light imagery. Isaiah 9:2, Isaiah 49:6, Isaiah 61:3. As Donna mentioned, this has been discussed numerous times. Anything else on this section before we move on to the next one?
I think it's interesting that he basically just calls them out and says, you don't even know God. You don't even know him. They're in, 19. You know neither me or my Father. And I mean, those are pretty much fighting words at that point, like, and that's why I think it's interesting how many times John says his time had not yet come. He already in 8 chapters, he said it several times. So, I think there's, it's absolutely miraculous stuff going on here, because I feel like it's almost like if you're watching a movie and this is the cliffhanger, right? Like they're two people staring each other down and what's gonna happen, and boom, you come back from commercial and it's nothing's happening. It's very, it's just kind of a awkward ending to that, but also a miraculous ending to that interaction.
So Julie references chapter 19. Then they asked him, "Where is your father? You do not know me or your father." Who are they referring to in terms of who's your father?
Well, he's claiming to be God. So they know, it's not like, there's something else going on. They know who he's claiming to be, the Son of God.
So does anybody else have a different perspective on, and I'm not disagreeing with Julie, but does anybody have a different perspective on what they say about who is your father? Julie's talking about spiritual father. I'm sorry? Yeah, where's your physical father that's on this planet, on this world, right? They're missing what Julie is referring to, which is the spiritual father. Daniel? Unless you're just stretching?
No, both actually. That's good. Clearly, I could be completely off because I haven't done an exhaustive study of any sorts. But I don't know. I kind of feel like they're still. I think they may have that in their mind about Joseph, but I don't think that's what they want him to say. I think it's still part of the game. It's like, yeah, we know who your dad is. Let's call him Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Your earthly father. But clearly, I think, like Julie said, they know who he's aligning himself with. And I think for them, it's just another attempt to call him blasphemy. Turn the minds of others to their thinking, like, this guy thinks he's the Son of God. Like, he's equating him. I think it's just, I don't know, it feels like that. It seems like that's just more of that game.
Well, I think it's kind of part of the trap that they're trying to get him into, right? Going back to the prior story with the adulterous woman, they're trying to trap him. They're trying to use the law to trap him. Anything else on this section? So I think I have heard, the reason why I was joking with Jolene a little bit is, I don't feel like this is as intense right now as it's going to be. This is more of a debate. This is, they're trying to trap him. But I don't get the sense that it's a hostile environment yet. We're going to get there as we progress through these next several sections. This is, at this point, they're asking him, really? Where is your father? And maybe that's a spiritual father or maybe that's a physical father. I lean more towards physical father, but I could be wrong on that. And so he makes a claim, I am the light of the world. They challenge him. They question the validity of his testimony. And now we're going to go into our next section. Do I have another reader for 21 through 30? Mike? You know what, Mike? I forgot to ask you to start us off with a prayer, and I really would like to do that right now. Can we pause and do that and then get into it, even though we're halfway through the class?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we study your word, please help us remember it, breathe it into our hearts. We can be an example, glorify you, and reveal you. Father, we are so grateful for this time together. Pray this in your Son, Jesus' holy name.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me by volunteering to read. Okay, let's jump into 21 through 30.
Then Jesus said to them again, I am going away, and you will seek me, and will die in your sin. Where I go, you cannot come. So the Jews said, will he kill himself because he says, where I go, you cannot come? And he said to them, you are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. Therefore I said to you that you will die in your sins. For if you did not believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. Then they said to him, who are you? And Jesus said to them, just what I have been saying to you from the beginning. I have many things to say and to judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true, and I speak to the world those things which I heard from him. They did not understand that he spoke to them of the Father. Then Jesus said to them, when you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself, but as my Father taught me, I speak these things. And he who sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I always do those things that please him. As he spoke these words, many believed in him.
Thank you, Mike. Let's reread and let's come back to 30. This is hugely important. I mentioned it earlier. Let's reread 24. This is Jesus speaking. I told you that you would die in your sins if you do not believe that I'm the one I claim to be. You will indeed die in your sins. All right, so what is Jesus saying in this section? By the way, there's going to be a pattern. I'm going to keep asking the same questions. What is Jesus saying in this section? What is he contrasting? How about that? Let's start with that.
Spiritual judgment versus physical judgment.
For spiritual judgment, he is talking about above and below. Where's Jesus? He's from above. Where are the people that he's talking to? Where are they from? They're from below. So now he's starting to say, he's explaining the contrast, the difference between them. All right, what else is Jesus saying?
If you don't believe in him, you'll die in your sins.
You'll die in your sins. Right. So, wow. Is that something that you think they want to hear? They're at the Feast of the Tabernacle. I'll come right to you in a second, Daniel. They're at the feast. They're together. They got up early, right? As Warren pointed out, they probably traveled from different places. So, wait, what? We're here. We're where we're supposed to be. Daniel and then Jolene.
I just think it's funny their response. I don't know. I guess if somebody says something to me about dying in sin, or something that has to do with condemnation, something I might want to hear a little bit more about that, be a little bit curious and ask about that. But they're like, "Oh, he's not going to kill himself. they're like, well, who are you? And it's like, I don't know, it just seems weird to me. Maybe I'm just odd like that, but they seem to not care about the most important thing that he said. It's like, I would be worried about, what is this dying in my sins? I'm a sin, what's going on here? What are you talking about?
So they go, wait a minute, you're gonna kill yourself? And then what's the second question? Verse 25. Who are you? What are you talking about? This is the Son of God. In fact, those lights represent that they should be celebrating Him because He brings the light to the world. All right, Julie.
Well, he's passing judgment on them. And as Pharisees, they consider that their job, their position, and their power. And for him to do this is threatening, but it's also completely out of place. It's disrespectful to them, it's rude, it's everything he should not be doing. But it's very scary, even in today's world, those who profess religious power or preachers, priests, whatever. If one says you're going to die in your sins, they don't want to hear that.
No.
And these people definitely did not want to hear that. And so they kept questioning, who do you think you are?
Absolutely. Who do you think you are? We are the Pharisees. We are the spiritual leaders. How dare you? This commoner, born in a manger, carpenter's son. Julie.
Let's not take this too far away from the woman caught in adultery, because this is all one thing, right? So he has just exampled what his judgment looks like. And now he's calling them out for their judgment. And I think that's the whole point of the woman caught in adultery story. This is not separate. This is the ongoing conversation of how unfair their judgment was. Because first off, they only brought the woman. And secondly, all of them are sinners themselves. So this is a whole lesson about judgment, starting with that example of the woman caught in adultery. And now he's just expanding on that his judgment is so much better than how they judge. So
Julie brings up a good point. This is why I wanted to go back, because in this scenario, instead of denying the law, Jesus is exposing the hypocrisy of this crowd. So it's the same concept, and I think he got in that courtroom the day that the Pharisees put the adulterous woman in front of him. And this is just a continual escalation of what's happening here. Thank you, Julie. Anybody else have any? Keith.
It's rather challenging for us to just open up John 8, begin with verse 12, and pull certain things in the context and get the idea. But if we were to start at John 1 and read through the 8th chapter, we would see and we would recall this is a couple years into Jesus' ministry. This didn't just happen overnight. This isn't everything that's going on in the discourse between the Pharisees and the Sadducees and Jesus and with the people there watching and listening. It's not anything new. And Jesus has performed several miracles up to this point. And the latest one being feeding the 5,000. Wow. There were thousands of people following Jesus, thousands. And the text says 5,000 men. That doesn't include the women and the children. His message was getting out there. It was out there strong and vibrant. And John often points out it wasn't Jesus' time, and as you've mentioned. And in certain increments, John reminds the readers, this wasn't the time for Christ. Which time? Well, the time that he came to live and teach and die about. That time right there. But he is in his time said, this is a couple of years into his ministry, and he's teaching, he's teaching very strong and vibrant, and that he is the Son of God, and that if they knew him, if they knew the Father, they would know him. How? Well, not just by the things he's saying. He's performed a number of miracles. And we would, if we were in San Diego and we heard of someone that is actually performing miracles, fed 5,000 people with hardly any food at all, raised someone from the dead, any number of those types of things, we would, all of us, I imagine, we would clamor to see this person that's doing this work and has been doing this work. And so this is just we could call it a banter. I don't believe Jesus banters. He's teaching and instructing all the time. But the Pharisees, they certainly, that's their mode. Their mode is to, we would say today, out Jesus and prove him to be a fraud. But each and every time Jesus uses his wisdom and his experience to out the Pharisees and demonstrate to the people, this is who you're following. Hypocrites, liars, what you call them later, vipers.
So Keith has mentioned a couple things. Number one, and this is what I'm trying to get out of this next 2 weeks. Let's really see and understand who is in this crowd. And part of the people that are in this crowd are Jesus' believers. Part of the crowd is the Pharisees. They've seen the proof. You would think that they would respond positively because of all these miracles and the 5,000 and so forth. But my goal is that we will truly understand and we can feel like we're a member in that crowd listening, because there is an underlying message that we can all benefit from. And we'll get into that here in a moment. Thank you, Keith, for that reminder. I think I'm good on hands unless I missed something. Anything else to add in this section? Anything that stands out at you?
No. I think it's interesting his timing. He has the perfect timing because this is a crowd where some of them may have never even seen or heard Jesus personally before. So he is multiple times reiterating who he is, why he's there, his importance, his significance, because he also knows there's a lot of strangers, people who hadn't seen him before, or heard of him before. And as we see later, many of them were converted because of what they heard.
Absolutely. Warren brings up the fact that there was maybe somebody who had actually never seen him speak before, who hearing the message. Let me review my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so who wants to help me with the title Son of Man, and where does that come from? As I mentioned before, Jesus is referencing the Old Testament. What does the Son of Man mean? I don't remember what verse it's actually in. Oh, 28. When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am the one I claim to be. What does the Son of Man mean?
Was the Son of God is the Son of all mankind. He came from physical man, but his spiritual father sent him to do what he did. So, the Son of God.
He is this. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
God with us.
He is two parts. He is not only the Son of God, but he also came in physical form. And he's trying to explain that to the crowd, but they are not understanding that. Who can turn to Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 through 14? Daniel 7, 13 through 14.
Daniel 7:13-14.
Yes.
I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. brought him there before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom the one which shall not be destroyed.
Does this sound familiar? And we've already established that the Pharisees and the spiritual leaders and the crowd, they knew the stories of the Old Testament. They knew this. But why did they miss it? I think it was Keith was it Keith or Julie? I can't remember who said that. Anyhow, I don't remember what they said now that I'm thinking about it.
It was brilliant, though.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Either way.
Maybe that was Keith. I can't remember. Keith, you have a comment?
Just, Jesus a number of times has told the Pharisees, "You're the son of your father, the devil."
Ooh.
So what is their point of, we would say today, what's their point of reference? Their point of reference is not God, the Heavenly Father. It is their own desire, their own will. One of the most poignant and obvious things about the Pharisees and the Sadducees was they were very afraid of the people booting them out, if you will, or not listening to them and their influence all over them. These men had seated themselves in a authoritarian position that they created for the Jewish nation to, quote unquote, rule and govern the people. And they were so self-centered, so self-guided that they were blind. And Jesus brings that up oftentimes and says, "You are blind guides." And so that's what I would say their point of reference was. Why did they miss it? They didn't want to see it.
Mm-mm.
The people that wanted to see it saw it, understood it, followed Jesus. As you pointed out, he had his disciples at this time, and other believers, others following him for the message that he taught.
Thank you for reminding me of the comment that was made earlier. So Mike pointed out that Jesus warns them that they will die of their sins. Well, by the way, before we move on to that, verse 30, let's reread verse 30. All right, so we've already established that we have Pharisees, Jewish leaders, crowd. Warren pointed out maybe some that have been traveled, some believers, some not. Even as he spoke, many put their faith in him. All right, we have some success here, right? The convincing, the response is starting to work. Jesus gets to go home, goes back to Mount of Olives, continue his prayer, place of solitude. Is that where he stops? No, he goes into verse 31. I'll read 31 through, can't remember 31 through 38. Wow. Can someone please remind me what time class ends?
20 after.
20 after, so I have 5 minutes. Wow. All right, I will read it real quickly. To the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, this isn't starting in verse 31, by the way. If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Let's stop right there. So he's talking to the crowd. Some start to believe. He picks up on it, because he is Son of Man, right? Then he starts to talk about a very specific population. Who is he talking to now? Presumably, who is he talking to now? I'm sorry? Disciples, those who are believing him. But is he celebrating their successes and the fact that they're believing him? They are not. He is not. He's going to go deeper. And he says, if you hold on to my teaching, you really are my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Jesus goes deeper to those who are believing that Keith was talking about earlier. Because their belief and going and participating in the festival is not enough. What does he say? If you hold my teaching, you are really my disciples. What is he encouraging the believers to actually do?
Same thing today.
Which is
Action.
action, following him. It's not enough to believe, to participate in the rituals. We actually have to follow him. We have to listen to his teachings. We have to abide by them. Dawson is in Mark, and he's Mark 5. I was helping with his homework for this morning. And it's about loving and putting others first. They were getting confused with the concept of eye for an eye. The eye for an eye is not to come back to somebody else. An eye for an eye is a reflection of the punishment should match the offense. Jesus is saying, follow me. If you hold to my teaching, you're really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What does that mean? The truth will set you free. What does that mean? Mike, sorry.
That if you believe in Jesus, you won't die in your sins, or be forgiven.
You will be forgiven. You will decide that you want to be like him. You want to actually separate yourself from the sin. And you want to seek forgiveness, right? So what is their response? And when we run out of time, we'll pick up from where we're at here, and we'll finish this next week. What is their response? Verse 33. It's not a trick question.
Well, they're going, what are you talking about setting us free? We've not been slaves. What are we slaves to? What do we need to be set free from?
Exactly. They went from him talking about above things, and they're from below, and they're staying below, and they can't get past this concept. Who do they actually reference from the Old Testament? Abraham. They're part of Abraham's descendants. Being part of a descendant of Abraham, does that necessarily mean that you're saved? No. That's what Jesus is pointing out here. Just because you're part of the society and you're a descendant doesn't mean that you're saved. And this is where they were really missing it. And we have never been slaves to anyone. It was Jolene. How dare you? We're not a slave. We've never been a slave to anybody. We are God's law followers. And here's our last question. How can you say that we shall be free? So now we're really running low on time. We'll pick up here. We'll refresh basically at 31. But my goal is to get through the end of the chapter. And if you'd like to read ahead, that would be great. If you can, and you can visualize this courtroom, it's really going to get serious next week. It's really going to escalate. But notice what happens to Jesus. What happens to Jesus as he explains himself, and what happens to them as they go deeper and deeper? I'm looking forward to our discussion next week, Lord willing, of course. Thank you very much for everybody's participation today.
Coincidentally, I just got back from where John spent the end of his life and where he was buried. Yeah, in Turkey. Yeah, I just got back from Turkey.
Oh, wow. I noticed you guys were gone for a
Yeah,
couple of weeks. What
it was
a
our
worry.
35th anniversary. So, and then, but yeah, and went to Ephesus too. That was just the highlight of the trip.
Got the Lord's Supper?
A lot of people out of town, huh? Seems really light. Is that where, is there something going on or just normal vacation or?
Just normal vacation, I
Yeah, I
guess.
didn't know if it was like, I was like, wow, this is really low.
They're having a powwow somewhere. No.
No, I
My
didn't know if it was
understanding is
like
they're
men's
just
retreat or
independently out
something.
this weekend.
Yeah, all right. Even Bob?
Yeah.
Wow, Bob's never here.
Well, they're doing their wedding anniversary.
Oh, yeah, I just did my, last week was our 35th.
Oh, yeah? Good. Congratulations. Hey, so, gonna gather everybody.
Yeah.
Mike Dodge, he's here. Ben Burke's right there. Brent is here. And Warren's here. You got all of them. Oh. Lord's Supper? Yeah, Mike was here.